Incredible rescue. Desperate kitten discovers an unexpected hero to save her dying mother. Lily sat on the worn-out steps of her porch, the day lazily turning into dusk. Whiskers, the scrappy little kitten she had claimed as her own, darted after a leaf, pouncing joyfully in a way that momentarily lightened the heaviness in her heart. But as she watched, that familiar ache crept back in. Memories of laughter shared with her mother, Sarah, echoed like distant ghosts in the corners of their worn home. Those days felt like faded photographs, the harsh reality of bills piling in overwhelming her thoughts. She pressed her palms together, wishing so hard that just one more miracle could save her dying mother. A rustle disrupted her thoughts. Whiskers ventured closer to a nearby construction site, a stark reminder of both hope and despair, a place that promised new beginnings, but was shrouded in danger. "Whiskers, come back!" she called, but the kitten was already gone, her fate unbeknownst to Lily. A panic surged through her, mingling with her usual unease. What if something happened? What if her little confidant didn't come back? Meanwhile, Tom, an architect recently fallen from grace, roamed nearby, seeking solace in aimless wandering. He had spent years pursuing perfection, only to witness his dreams slip through his fingers like sand. Lost in his thoughts, he caught sight of Whiskers trapped beneath a rusting beam, her tiny paws scrambling for freedom. As he stepped closer, memories of his own youthful ambitions bloomed in bursts of color against the monochrome backdrop of his current life. "Why can't I be enough?" he grumbled, frustration building as he assessed the situation. He felt a strange kinship with that innocent kitten. Both were ensnared in predicaments far beyond their control. He crouched low, cautiously reaching out toward Whiskers. She mewed softly, her fear palpable, just like the moments when he'd felt too insignificant, too flawed, to meet expectations. Just then, a voice permeated his reverie from a distance, and he turned to see Lily watching with wide eyes, her small frame bespeaking immense anxiety. The sight of her fear pricked at Tom's own hopelessness. "I have to help her," he murmured more to himself than anyone else. Edging closer, he felt the tension tighten in his muscles. If only his past losses wouldn't echo in his mind. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications, so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom's hands trembled as he navigated the construction site. Each precarious step mirrored his inner battle, forcing back the memories of failure that whispered, "You can't do this." He could feel Lily's gaze, heavy with both expectation and fear. But there was no turning back now. The weight of responsibility felt suffocating. With determination fueling him, he pulled at the beam using every ounce of his strength. It shifted, a sliver of light seeping in, but with it came a chorus of angry voices from construction workers nearby. "You don't belong here," one shouted, and Tom's heart dropped. Their disdain raked against his already fragile resolve. Would their scorn pull him back down, or could he rewrite the narrative? Lily's presence pushed him forward, yet that very connection filled him with dread. Could he rise to the occasion while fighting the shadows of his own inadequacies? As Whiskers finally broke free, the small victories mingled with doubt. Tom took a deep breath, staring into the uncertain expressions of Lily and his own future. It wasn't just the kitten that had been saved, but would he truly salvage his purpose as well? Their worlds, intertwined yet fragile, hung in the balance, threatening an implosion of hope. Would they be brave enough to confront not only the immediate challenges, but also their haunting pasts? Tom dropped the beam from his hands, the abrupt clang echoing through the construction site as Whiskers happily bounded toward Lily. The kitten's joyful mews flickered a flame of warmth in Tom's chest, yet the feeling was tinged with trepidation. The tangible connection he felt with the girl, the weight of her worries pressing against his own heart, reminded him of the stark void left by his own failures. What he'd achieved seemed so petty, In contrast to the desperate love she had for her mother, Lily knelt, cradling Whiskers in her arms, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, yet laden with gratitude. Tom forced a smile, even as vulnerability clawed for his throat. "Just doing what needed to be done," he replied, his voice a shaky reflection of his inner doubts. In that moment, as she met his gaze, he saw something deeper, a flicker of shared struggle. It was not only her affection for the kitten, it was the understanding of battling shadows that threatened to engulf them both. An intricate web of emotions, a singular realization, connected their experiences. They were, in a sense, wounded warriors. Can I help you?" Tom stammered, the words unwinding from him almost unbidden. It felt like a point of no return. The offer could very well lead to more vulnerability, and yet, a persistent urge to overcome his limitations pushed forth. Lily seemed taken aback, her brows knitting together in thought. "Help me," she echoed. There was a flicker of hope that ignited within her expression, but it was tempered by uncertainty. "You don't even know my story." "And you don't know mine," he responded, the sincerity resonating through his voice like a bridge forming between them. "Maybe we can figure it out together." The look she cast upon him held more than curiosity. It was a type of challenge, urging him to step further outside of his own narrative. This was not just about saving a kitten, and it struck him then that the moment had unfurled beyond mere chance. Beneath the surface, an urge to find purpose was stirring, calling him to seek meaning through another's burden, a chance to rebuild the shattered architecture of his life. Lily seemed contemplative for a moment, the corners of her mouth hesitating between fear and gratitude. "Then I won't say no," she replied at last, her voice steadier, embodying a newfound resolve. It hit Tom like a jolt. Her decision, against all odds, felt like a manifestation of hope. He took a step closer, driven by an instinct he hadn't heard in years, a call to action. "What do you need?" "Well, we need to find a way to get help for my mom. The bills, they just keep piling up." Her words rushed together, laced with urgency. Each syllable revealed vulnerability, yet the fire within her eyes illuminated something stronger: determination. For the first time in ages, Tom felt the rustling of ambition stirring within him. He could help, not merely as an act of saviorhood, but as a person with the potential to contribute meaningfully again. It stirred his purpose into a flurry of action. "Let's make a plan," he suggested, his voice clearer now. "We can tackle this one step at a time." In that moment, along with Whiskers nestled safely in Lily's embrace, they became a united front, a partnership forged in distress, yet primed to challenge the odds before them. As they began brainstorming how Tom could leverage his past experiences, he realized the myriad possibilities. But just as excitement surged, a new thought drifted into his mind. What if he failed her too? The nagging doubt clawed at him, the whispers of inadequacy returning. With each passing moment, the precarious balance of their joint venture began to shift. What if they leaned too much on one another and risked shattering under shared weight? Tom shifted his gaze back to Lily, wondering if she sensed the threat of despair lurking beneath their fragile hope. Together they would face the unknown. It was risky, but clarity emerged. The moment for change had arrived. The experience ahead seeped with promise and peril, but what would their journeys demand in return? Engulfed in thoughts, Tom couldn't shake the intensity of the looming challenges. What if this was just the beginning of an even greater struggle waiting to unfold? The question lingered as they set the foundation for what lay ahead, both unaware that their individual battles hadn't even begun to surface. Tom sat on a weathered crate at the edge of the construction site, his mind racing far beyond the clanging of machines and the shouts of workers. The radiant summer sun hung above, yet the warmth on his skin was overshadowed by the icy grip of doubt that wrapped around him. As Lily's words echoed in his head, "We need to find a way to get help for my mom," he confronted a deeper fear of his inadequacy. He ran a hand through his hair and exhaled, attempting to summon clarity amidst the chaos swirling in his thoughts. The desire to support Lily felt exhilarating, but somewhere deep down, dread festered. How could he, a man still grappling with his own failures, possibly assist someone as vulnerable and straightforward as Lily in her time of need. There was a dawning realization that this moment was not just a chance to help Lily, it was a chance to help himself. It was a pivotal point, a chance to reclaim purpose amid the ruins of his past. He envisioned the glimmer of hope in Lily's tear-streaked face, a mirror reflecting his own yearning to create meaning from turmoil. "Focus, Tom," he murmured to himself, grounding himself. "What skills do you have? What can you actually contribute that would help her?" The answer was not immediately apparent, but he instinctively grabbed a notepad he kept in his back pocket and began jotting down ideas. He referenced past experiences, his years in construction, project management, and even his rudimentary financial knowledge from the brief stint in community college. If he had directly involved himself in the intricate blueprints of buildings, why couldn't he now map out a plan for saving a life? But those intrusive doubts crept in again. What if it wasn't enough? What if his efforts collapsed like the projects he failed to see through? Ashamed, he shoved his thoughts aside, determined not to let fear overshadow any potential gains. "Tom?" Lily's voice broke through his contemplation, dragging him back to the present. He looked up to find her studying him, concern etched across her face. "Sorry, just thinking," he replied with an attempt at a reassuring smile. Do you really think we can get help?" she asked tentatively. Each word a delicate thread of hope intertwined with apprehension. He met her gaze, and the uncertainty bubbling within her stirred something within him. If they were to tackle this together, they needed a shared commitment. "We can," he asserted, his voice steadier, surging with newfound resolve. "But we need to be practical and patient. Let's create a budget and list all the potential resources and options available to you." A flicker crossed her eyes, a blend of expectation and lingering disbelief. "Like charities or organizations that could assist?" "That's a start," Tom replied, his excitement igniting sparks that flicked through his veins. "And we can look into local support groups, too. There might be programs offering financial assistance for medical bills." As they brainstormed, Tom felt the walls around him begin to shift. For every roadblock he envisioned, Lily generated another possibility. The dynamic of their partnership revealed a synergy he hadn't anticipated. He no longer felt isolated or adrift. Instead, purpose surged. The whir of machinery shifted in rhythm with their growing momentum. Lily's questions, struggles, and insights catalyzed realizations about resources in their community, his own forgotten skills, and ultimately, the importance of collaboration. Together they unearthed the vestiges of resilience they each hid within themselves, assembling a plan with each passing moment. But as the afternoon sunlight began to wane and dusk loomed, a new sense of urgency wrapped around Tom. What if the time frame was not on their side? The pressure intensified, and with it arose a haunting echo of doubt. What if they couldn't pull this off? This group of mere thoughts swelled ominously, a whispering specter stalking his newfound zeal. "Tom?" Lily's voice tugged at him once more, bringing him back. "What if we need more than just money? What if I need to find someone for my mom?" Her question hung in the air, thick with implications. The pursuit of hope suddenly came wrapped in the challenge of emotional labor, dealing with the fallout of a failing health system, and potentially confronting an unseen adversary. Tom glanced at Lily, a tightness gripping his throat. "Then we find that someone. Together." It was a promise riddled with uncertainty, yet not without resolve. The time had come to assemble not only strategies, but courage to face whatever dark corners awaited them. Would they have the strength to find the right people, the help they truly needed? As the sun dipped lower, the creeping shadows of the night hinted that the real battles were only just beginning to unfold. Tom felt the urgency of dusk settle like a weight upon his shoulders. The prospect of finding help for Lily's mother loomed larger than any construction challenge he had faced, yet he sensed the stakes were much higher. Faced with an emotional crisis that surpassed his own qualms about self-worth, he couldn't afford to spiral into confusion. Their discussion had ignited a spark, yet it also demanded action, not just words. "Do you have any family or friends who could help?" Tom asked, his voice steady. attempting to cut through the layers of anxiety. Lily shook her head slowly. Not really. My dad's gone, and it's just me and my mom mostly. Tom could feel the loneliness in her voice. A wave of empathy washed over him, deepening his resolve. What if we reach out to your mom's doctor? They might know of services we can tap into. Her eyes widened, catching the flicker of possibility. I can call tomorrow. Do you really think they'd help? I do, Tom replied, surprising himself with the weight of certainty behind those words. Encouraged by her spark of hope, he began to draft a more concrete action plan in his head. They needed more than aspirations. They required a dedicated timeline and specific tasks. Right now, they were explorers hunting for a solution amid shifting sands. Let's sit down later and map everything out. We'll start with what you need to discuss with the doctor. Then we should look into financial organizations or charities. You can tackle one thing at a time, Tom suggested, tapping the notepad on his knee to keep his thoughts focused. Okay, I could sketch out some notes on what to say, Lily replied, her voice gaining strength. Perfect. Just remember, we're in this together, he assured, feeling an electric sense of camaraderie take root. They were no longer mere individuals bobbing above their struggles. They had begun to form a team. As they continued their discussion under the deepening twilight, Tom began to feel the shadows of self-doubt lift slightly. The act of planning ignited something within him, sparking memories of his project management days. Those moments when costs, timelines, and people coalesced into coherent structure felt tangible now. He borrowed from those experiences, reminding himself that tasks were cumulative, and every small step counted. Let's break it down into segments. First, we reach the doctor, then source financial options, and finally... He stumbled slightly, anxiety nipping at his confidence. And finally, we'll figure out what emotional support your mom might need. How do we even begin to find that person? Lily's question felt heavy, laced with vulnerability. It struck Tom like a light bulb illuminating a dark corner. Support networks, he said, words spilling out. You mentioned more than money. What if we reached out to local community groups? They'll know how to navigate this. Like counseling services or someone who specializes in health advocacy? Lily's tentative voice hinted at burgeoning knowledge, and a glimmer of excitement danced across her features. Exactly. They could guide us. An internal thrill surged through Tom. These conversations unveiled layers of competence within them both that had remained buried. For every fear-based inquiry they posed, new opportunities flickered to life. Maybe I should also ask about palliative care options for my mom, Lily added, her tone shifting towards determination. Yes, that could make a significant difference, he emphasized, noticing the rapid heartbeat of purpose beneath the chaos of decisions. But beyond their planned efforts loomed new threats. What if they encountered bureaucratic indifference? How would they cope if the layers of the system pushed back against their urgency? A small knot of dread tightened in Tom's gut. We can't let ourselves be discouraged, Tom urged, internal fears bubbling raw beneath the surface. If one door closes on us, we'll find another. That's non-negotiable. Agreed, Lily replied, steeling her resolve. As the stars began dotting the night sky, Tom recognized the resilience blooming between them, a force capable of cutting through the murkiness of the challenges ahead. They might be haunted by doubt, but they had begun cultivating determination. Yet still, a nagging thought lingered. What if they got lost in this bureaucratic labyrinth, leaving Lily's mother's health hanging in precarious balance? With a deep breath, Tom endeavored to quell his fears. He suddenly realized the impending steps felt monumental, the kind that could expose hidden stumbles in courage and commitment along the way. Tomorrow will be the first real test, he mused aloud. Lily nodded, their silent understanding of that looming challenge binding them closer. What lay ahead could either illuminate their path or shatter the fragile hope they had begun to weave. In that fleeting yet charged moment, Tom sensed seismic shifts within himself. Could he guide both himself and Lily through the storm? The challenge wasn't just circumscribed to the logistics of support. It stretched into the realm of emotions, resilience, and deeper confrontations with their capacities. A silent promise stood unspoken on the horizon between them. They would not back down, but would they be able to withstand the tides of hardship yet to come? As night deepened, so did Tom's resolve. The time had truly come to face the real battle ahead. The morning sun spilled through the blinds, a patchwork of light illuminating the room where Tom sat. He felt the weight of the day ahead pressing down on him, a mix of anticipation and dread intertwining in his mind. The dawn, with its promise of new beginnings, felt both inviting and intimidating. Tom glanced over at Lily, her brow furrowed as she chewed on a pen cap, lost in thought. The urgency of their situation was unmistakable, and the reality of their impending conversation with her mother's doctor weighed on them both. Would they gain the clarity they so desperately sought or shatter the delicate hope they had begun to build? "Do you have everything you need for your call? Notes? Questions?" he asked, breaking the silence like a dam bursting. His calm tone belied the nervous energy rippling through him. Lily straightened, setting the pen aside. "I think so. I wrote down some things I want to ask. I wish I could be more prepared. It feels so important." The flicker of anxiety in her eyes mirrored his own thoughts, and Tom felt an impulsive urge to shield her from the storm of uncertainty ahead. "Let's run through it together," he said, sitting up straighter. "What's the first question?" She consulted her notes, her voice strengthening with each word. "I want to know about her current condition. What are the options moving forward, and if there are support services available?" Tom nodded, impressed by her focus. "Good questions. You're advocating for your mom. It's your responsibility, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone." Lily's posture shifted. There was something invigorating about the way their shared mission was refining her resolve. Yet beneath his encouragement, a tide of frustration built within Tom. He could guide her, but what if he faltered in that task? Would he be enough? "Okay. The second question is about palliative care options," she continued, glancing up for affirmation. "Right," he replied, recalling the heaviness of that term. "Just remember, no matter how they answer, you have the right to ask for clarification. This is your mom's life." Thoughts of the bureaucratic maze they were about to navigate materialized again, visions of callous red tape and indifferent staff swirling in his mind. The looming specter of failure clawed at him. Why was he feeling so lost, despite their shared purpose? "Tom," Lily's voice interrupted his spiraling thoughts. "I'm really glad you're here." Her simple gratitude struck him sharply, igniting an unexpected surge of confidence. She was counting on him to be her anchor, and perhaps in these moments of vulnerability, he could redefine what he was capable of. "Me too," he said, a steadiness returning to his voice. "I want to help. We'll face whatever comes our way together. But you need to be your mom's voice today." They spent the next hour reviewing potential scenarios, possible responses from the doctor, contingencies, routes to seek additional help. The act of preparing lent both of them strength, a glimmer of control emerging in the face of overwhelming odds. As the clock ticked closer to the appointment, Tom felt the shift within. Whatever doubts lurked in the corners of his mind were pushed away by this newfound sense of purpose. It wasn't only about logistics. He was stepping into a role he never imagined he could occupy, a confidant, an advocate, possibly even a hero in Lily's eyes. The moment of truth now loomed like a storm cloud overhead. A nail bit into his palm as he considered how fragile everything was. If things didn't go as planned, would he be able to handle the fallout? What truths would emerge from this process, not only about Lily's mother but about their capacity to endure? "Are you ready?" he asked, though the question was as much for himself as it was for her. "I think so," Lily replied, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Tom nodded, willing to confront any uncertainty that lay ahead. It was now or never, and they had forged ahead from the shadows of doubt into the light of responsibility. Their journey was firmly rooted in each step they took, yet the path remained treacherous. As they headed towards the hospital, a thought struck Tom unceremoniously. All of this was a test, not only of external forces, but of who they could become together. But what dark revelations awaited them at the hospital? And would each confront their deepest fears as circumstances spiraled beyond their control? The sterile smell of antiseptic hit Tom as they entered the hospital, a jarring contrast to the calm they had tried to conjure in the morning. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead shone down like a relentless spotlight, amplifying the sense of dread that lingered in his chest. He glanced over at Lily, her shoulders tense, the paper with notes clutched tightly in her hand. This was more than just a routine appointment. It was an intersecting point that could redefine both of their lives. "Let's breathe a little," he suggested, attempting to ease both their nerves. He felt it was time to show his strength, yet a small part of him worried if he had the ability to truly hold both their fears at bay. They found a seat in the waiting area, a sea of somber faces echoing their collective worry. The hum of murmurs and the occasional wail of a child reminded him of life's fragility. Each ticking second felt like an eternity, and with each tick, a new layer of his anxiety peeled away. There, amidst the chaos, he realized the fragility of hope had become a commonality between them. What if this became a moment of profound change for both Lily and himself? "You've got this," he said, trying to emphasize strength, though doubt gnawed at his resolve. "Just remember we are in this together." Lily didn't look up, instead fixing her gaze on her notes as if they could magically resolve all their uncertainties. Her pen tapped nervously against the paper, revealing her internal conflict even more than her words ever could. Tom's instincts tugged at him. Could he guide her through this maze of emotions, or would he become just another piece of collateral damage in this chaotic landscape? As the nurse finally called Lily's name, they both stood slowly, the weight of 1,000 unsaid words hanging in the air between them. Lily inhaled deeply, the moment of uncertainty encapsulated in that breath. Tom noticed the subtle shift in her posture, the fragility of the earlier fear replaced with a fierce determination. The transformation sparked something within him, a rising tide of courage. Lily turned to him before they walked through the door, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they don't have good news?" Tom paused, considering his response carefully. "Then we'll face it together, no matter what." The promise settled on his lips like a vow. He could already feel the responsibilities of being her anchor tightening around him, yet there was something inherently liberating in the challenge. Tom had always known about the depths of uncertainty. This time, however, he could choose to rise above it. As they followed the nurse down the long corridor, uncertainty mingled with the resolve blooming in Tom. The question resided in a shadowy corner of his mind. Was he truly prepared for the outcome, whatever it may be? Inside the consultation room, their previous preparations danced at the edge of his consciousness, a fragile framework that could either provide clarity or unravel entirely. The doctor entered, and Tom felt the air shift, both exhilarating and suffocating. He realized this moment was not merely an appointment but a pathway to self-discovery, and he stood at a precipice, on the brink of revealing facets of himself he had never thought he possessed. "Lily," he murmured, wanting to rally her, but the weight of what was to come lodged in his throat. She looked up, her expression a kaleidoscope of fear and fierce determination. The fear that had initially consumed him now transformed into an unyielding determination to support her. Whatever came next, he resolved to face it head-on. The doctor began to speak. Tom narrowed his focus, preparing himself to absorb and interpret the information that, in a moment, could shift everything they thought they knew. But in the back of his mind loomed yet another question. Would he master the role of being a steadfast ally, or would he falter right when it mattered most? Before they could process the words coming from the doctor, the ground beneath them settled into a new reality. Tom could sense it. The world was about to change in ways neither had anticipated. As the conversation unfolded, a chilling realization crept in. What if this journey forced not just Lily into new territories, but also unearthed hidden truths about his own past that were too painful to confront? His heart raced, not only from what he might hear next, but from the anticipation of discovering who he might become through the unfolding of this very moment. The doctor's voice became a background hum, a relentless droning that blurred the words into an indecipherable tapestry of medical jargon. Tom focused intently on Lily, studying the way her eyes flickered with fleeting emotions, the way her fingers curled into fists as she braced herself for whatever grim details were being laid down like heavy bricks on their fragile plans. He felt a magnetic pull towards her. The fear of what she might hear was palpable, yet it forged an unexpected connection within him. "Tom." Lily's voice sliced through the noise, her gaze piercing through the fog of anxiety that surrounded them. It was not just a question. It was a plea for solidarity, a need to anchor herself in the tumultuous sea of doubt that swelled around them. He nodded, even as chaos threatened to eclipse his own resolve. As the doctor summarized the diagnosis, a blend of uncertainty wrapped in cold statistics, Tom felt a surge of determination. Each syllable felt like a challenge, not just for Lily, but for him as well. What lay ahead would not only test her, but would demand he redefine the contours of his own identity. He was not just a bystander anymore, he was a participant in a greater struggle for life, either framing a narrative of defeat or championing a story of resilience. He took a deep breath and leaned closer to Lily, his voice firm yet gentle. "Whatever comes next, I'm right here. We will navigate this together. You don't have to do this alone." Something shifted in her posture, a slight unclenching of her fists that revealed a flicker of hope amidst the despair hanging in the air. In that moment, Tom realized he was beginning to find a piece of himself he had long ignored, the part that grasped hold of empathic strength not just for another but for himself as well. The doctor finished with a discussion about treatment options, but Tom only half listened. Instead, he found himself reflecting on the soft edges of the life he had put on hold. The illusion of control he had so meticulously crafted was being dismantled, and it scared him, yet simultaneously lit a fire within. Could he be courageous not just for Lily, but in transforming his own trajectory? The conversation concluded with the typical reassurances and the outlining of a follow-up plan, but for Tom, the real work was just beginning. The drive back to their apartment was marked by a profound silence. Worries and fears coursed between breaths, not as burdens, but as shared connections woven into the very fabric of their growing understanding of resilience. Tom stole glances at Lily, marveling at her quiet strength. She was an anchor in her own right, navigating uncharted waters, while unwittingly giving him the courage to confront his turbulent past. He could feel echoes of his own earlier struggles rising up, but now they carried a different weight. They weren't just shadows, they could be lessons in fortitude, reminders that surviving did not merely equate to enduring, but also embracing the fight for better. As they parked, Tom's mind whirled, contemplating the path he would have to chart for both of them. It wasn't enough to just support her. He needed to actualize the strength he knew was within him. He unlocked the door, ready to step into the familiar space, while feeling the tremors of impending change course through him. "Tom," Lily's voice broke through his thoughts as they entered the dimly lit living room. What if I can't handle this? What if it's too much?" Her question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. Tom took a step closer, feeling that this pivotal moment could not only define Lily's journey, but also his own. "Then we will find a way to handle it together, whatever it takes." Steps were afoot for both of them, and as the reality of their situation settled in, Tom realized that everything was leading him toward a decision he had been avoiding, a confrontation with his own vulnerabilities. He needed to face the truths he had suppressed, his past intermingling with the present. As dread fused with determination, he pondered what it would take to reconcile with the parts of himself he had kept hidden. The revelation was pulsating with urgent intensity. Would he emerge from this journey aligned and whole, or would he remain fragmented? The moment was intense, urging him toward self-exploration he could no longer avoid. As they sat together in the encroaching silence, both aware of the delicate balancing act they now faced, Tom steeled himself for the unexpected. Because now, they would both have to confront the shadows of their pasts and illuminate the path toward an uncertain future. The time was fast approaching for Tom to reclaim not just his support for Lily, but also his agency to confront deep-seated fears. Decisions loomed closer than ever. Tom leaned against the worn kitchen countertop, the faint scent of stale coffee hanging in the air. As he stared into the dregs of his cup, the shadows of doubt loomed larger than any of the walls around him. The conversation at the doctor's office replayed in his mind like a haunting refrain. Whatever it takes, he had promised. But as usual, The weight of that commitment pressed heavily on him, igniting the flicker of anxiety that simmered just beneath the surface. "Do you want tea or something?" he called out, trying to fill the silence. Lily's response was a subdued, "No thanks." She sat curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her legs drawn close to her chest, as if trying to shield herself from the reality of their situation. Tom could see her distress radiating outward, a palpable wave of vulnerability that ripped through him. Yet, in a strange twist of fate, it also stoked something deep within, a drive to be enough, for her and for himself. He shook his head at the ache within him. This wasn't just about holding Lily up, it was about building something together, crafting a future that felt secure despite the uncertainties looming ahead. Taking a steadying breath, he stepped into the living room. "Lily," he began, searching for the right words. "Can we talk about how you're feeling? I want to understand. We can't face this alone." Her eyes met his, glistening with an intensity that told him everything he needed to know. It was a mirror reflecting his own fears and questions back at him. As she opened her mouth to speak, Tom's own thoughts spiraled deeper into the core of his unresolved feelings. Would he find the courage to confront not just her situation, but his crumbling sense of self, buried beneath layers of complacency? "I'm scared," she finally said, the fragility of her voice striking him like a physical blow. What if I fall apart? I don't want you to have to carry me." He felt a surge of emotion, the tightening in his chest shifting into a resolve that surged through him, igniting a path forward. "You're not a burden," he replied earnestly. "And falling apart doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're human. And I'm here, I promise." The warmth of their connection flickered in the air, as Tom recognized that vulnerability was untangling the knots of his past. He was not aiming to be perfect. He just needed to be present and authentic, allowing both themselves to navigate the chaos together. Suddenly, the calming rhythm of their conversation was pierced by a barrage of thoughts. He thought of his stagnant job, the mundane cycles of his day-to-day life, and a deep-seated fear that he had become as immobilized as he felt now. This moment was a catalyst, not only for Lily but for himself. He could no longer remain a figure in the background. He needed to reclaim his narrative, the agency over his own fears. "I want to make some changes, too, about my work, my life," he admitted, his voice steadier than he felt. "Help can't just come from one side. We need to meet in the middle." Lily stared at him, her eyes widening with surprise, as if his words had stirred a long dormant ember inside her. "You mean that?" she asked quietly, almost as if she feared the answer would change everything again. "I do," he affirmed, sensing both the gravity of his admission and the hope it might foster. "Let's take control of our lives again, together. This isn't just about surviving. It can be about thriving, too." Tom reached out, taking her hands into his. They shared an unspoken bond that transcended the chaos. They had the power to co-create their journey, deliberately. He saw the flicker of determination blooming in her expression, resonating with his own newfound clarity. "What's the first step?" she asked, her grip tightening ever so slightly. "Let's make a list. What are the things we want to change?" Tom suggested, his mind racing with possibilities. It was a simple exercise, yet the idea felt monumental. It wasn't merely an attempt to regain some semblance of control. It was a commitment to evolving, reinforcing their shared strength. The challenge lay ahead, a path still shadowed in uncertainty. Yet, the more they engaged in this dialogue, the clearer it became that the upcoming weeks would demand more than just emotional support. They needed to embrace each fractured part of themselves to mend their interaction. As they sat together, two living beings flooded with fears, yet ignited by the intention to change, Tom knew the journey would not be easy. He needed to confront his own past echoing in a whisper. The time had come to face what you've long ignored. The weight of this realization bore down on him, heightening the stakes as he prepared for the unraveling ahead. But what he didn't know was how intertwined their fates would become as they lay their struggles bare, beckoning transformations they couldn't yet fathom. Tom picked up a pen and paper, the smooth surface of the page blank and inviting, like a canvas awaiting bold strokes of change. He could almost hear the unformed thought swirling in his mind, clamoring to escape. As the tip of the pen hovered over the paper, uncertainty pulsed through him. What did he want? What could he change? "Let's start with small things," he said, breaking the silence that felt heavy with unsaid fears. "Maybe we need to look at our daily routines first. What do you think?" Lily nodded, slowly unfolding from her tight cocoon on the couch. "Routine feels like it's been dragging us down," she admitted. "Every day feels the same. I feel like I'm just going through the motions." She was right. Tom realized how their routines had become not just anchors, but weights, confining them within a predictable cycle. A frisson of determination sparked within him as he began scribbling down ideas. Spending time outdoors, cooking new recipes, or even dabbling in hobbies long forgotten. Could these small steps reinvigorate their lives? The act of writing ignited something deeper. With each bullet point, he felt a sense of agency returning. Tom caught glimpses of his own passions they had stowed away for far too long. Working late hours at a job that no longer inspired him, he had relinquished his interests, and perhaps even more vitally, his sense of self. "What about your job?" Lily asked, her voice gentle yet probing. "Wouldn't it help to consider a change there as well?" The question hit him hard. In the quiet moments of introspection, he often found himself cornered by the nagging thought that he had settled. While he had been busy maintaining stability, his enthusiasm for his work continually eroded. "I can't keep this charade up," he finally admitted, his voice trembling slightly. He rested the pen on the table. "I've let my ambitions fade away. I hardly feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to anymore." For a brief moment, he entertained the idea of venturing out into unfamiliar territories, taking risks in his career, pushing boundaries he had previously deemed insurmountable. Could he weave this desire for change into the fabric of their collective journey? "Let's find ways to inspire each other," Tom suggested earnestly. "If I commit to exploring new professional paths, then that, in turn, can inspire you too, can't it?" Lily's brow furrowed thoughtfully. "Yes, that could be something," she replied, her voice gradually buoyed with hope. "How about we set goals not just individually but together? We can check in on each other's progress, kind of like an accountability system." They began brainstorming ideas, establishing timeframes and expectations around both personal and professional growth. The act of mapping out their intentions shifted something profound between them. The clouds of despair began to disperse, revealing an unexpected sunlight of possibility. With each item added to their list, Tom felt a rebirth occurring inside him. Stepping into this new role, one not defined solely by his struggles but imbued with dreams, made the once insurmountable obstacles feel surmountable. The more they discussed, the clearer it became that they were not only seeking change, but a redefining of their identities. "Maybe we're stronger than we realize," Tom remarked, a smile creeping onto his face. "Maybe we can make every moment count." Lily's response was enveloped in a serene optimism. "I believe it, Tom. But we need to act. Talk will only get us so far. What will be our first step?" The enthusiasm swelled, a palpable current of energy wrapping around them, pulsing with the potential of all that lay ahead. "Let's set a deadline for trying something new, like a workshop or course. Something that scares us, something we've wanted to explore but never did," Tom proposed, the prospect of confrontation tinged with excitement. "Like a leap of faith," she responded, her eyes flickering with courage. The idea invigorated her. They spent the evening mapping out action plans with dizzying excitement. This was more than a mere list. It was a manifesto of newfound resolve to live purposefully, confronting the challenges lying in wait. But amidst the brewing sense of determination, an unsettling doubt lingered just beneath the surface. What if delving into this raw exploration of themselves unearthed not just growth, but unhealed wounds? Tom couldn't ignore the clutch of apprehension in his gut as they planned. The depths of their transformation loomed larger than he had anticipated. They were about to embark on a journey towards confronting their fears, the energy of courage, and anxiety mingling in an unpredictable dance. Unbeknownst to them, the path forward would unravel the very fabric of who they thought they were, plunging them into the depths of not only their aspirations, but their greatest vulnerabilities as well. The question hung in the air. Could they embrace this upheaval not just as a possibility but as an inevitable necessity? As they finished drafting their paths forward, Tom's heart raced, gently nudging him toward a deeper confrontation. The reckoning awaited them, and the time would soon come to unveil what's hidden beneath the surface. Tom stood in his living room, the glow of the morning sun illuminating his surroundings like a spotlight on a stage. The list they had created together sat before him, each goal and aspiration etched with intention. This moment felt pivotal, awakening a dormant sense of agency within him that had long been stifled by doubt and complacency. The call to act was palpable, and he could feel the weight of his words anchoring him, an anchor amidst swirling uncertainties. "Lily," he said, his voice brimming with conviction, "we need to take the next step today. We can't let another opportunity slip through our fingers." The idea of action invigorated him. It resonated with a part of himself he was eager to reclaim. She emerged from the kitchen, cup of steaming tea in hand, a flicker of curiosity lighting her eyes. "You're right. What's on your mind?" "Let's sign up for that community art workshop," he suggested, pointing to the note they had jotted down. "Creating something tangible might not only distract us, but also empower us. It's time to put ourselves out there." Lily considered it, her brow furrowing thoughtfully. "Art, I've never really been that good at it." "What if—" "No what ifs," he interrupted, smiling through her apprehension. "This is more than just art. It's about allowing ourselves to explore, to express, and to grow together. We can't be afraid of who we are, or what we might create. This is a leap, and I want to take it with you." That spark in her eyes ignited full flames of determination. "You're probably right," she admitted. "I want to be brave." With a sense of unity, they both reached for the computer, navigating to the workshop's website. They scrolled through a list of classes, their laughter emanating like a melody filling the air. The atmosphere around them shifted with each click, and Tom could sense the powerful bond strengthening as they committed to creativity together. "Okay," Lily said, resolving herself as if stepping into new shoes. "Let's do it. Sign us up." As they filled out the registration form, Tom felt an undeniable shift. Here they were, two individuals weaving a new narrative through art, all while confronting their own fears not just for themselves, but for each other. Each keystroke marked a turning point. The leap forward in their individual journeys had begun. Days turned into weeks, each passing moment marked not by the weight of worry, but rather the anticipation of transformation. The workshop became a sacred hour each week, a space where burdens could temporarily evaporate and creativity could flow freely. They experimented with colors, brushes, and mediums, allowing their frustrations to find release on canvas as vivid strokes revealed raw emotions. And with every class, Tom sensed a change within himself too, not just as Lily's anchor, but as an artist reclaiming a lost part of his identity. The vibrant splashes of paint signified more than just art. They represented triumph over limitations, a manifestation of confronting demons both personal and collective. The feeling of accomplishment surged with every class project. Safe in their shared exploration, vulnerability transformed into strength. Each creation spoke volumes about their personal growth, a testament to the work they were willing to put in, not just for each other, but for themselves. One evening after a particularly exhilarating painting session, they sat on the porch, watching the sun dip into vibrant shades of orange and purple. "You know," Tom began, casting a sideways glance at Lily, "I never imagined art could teach me so much about resilience. It's like each stroke of the brush connects me to a deeper part of myself." Lily nodded, her eyes reflecting the brilliance of the sunset. "I feel that way too. It's as if we're rewriting our stories, one painting at a time." She turned to him, her gaze steady. "And you've been so crucial in that for me, Tom. I appreciate you for everything you've done." He felt the warmth of gratitude enveloping him. "Thank you, but it's been a joint effort. We've become a team, a solid unit fighting through life together. In that moment, he found clarity. He could not only be her support, he could be someone who thrived alongside her. With their newfound courage, plans to explore more opportunities emerged. Tom sent out inquiries for part-time work in fields he had previously dismissed. He utilized the network of people he had met at the workshop to gain insights into alternative career paths aligned with his passion rather than mere necessity. Meanwhile, Lily had started reaching out to local support groups, tapping into community resources for her mother. She became proactive, advocating for her mother's health with newfound confidence rather than caving to despair. Their journeys became an intertwined tapestry of growth, each thread connecting personal ambition to collective strength. It was all coming together, a realization that both challenge and recognition stood at the forefront of their lives. Clarity permeated Tom's consciousness. He had no intention of retreating back into his old life. He would embrace change and step into uncertain territories with Lily at his side. Days turned into milestones as they continued their work. Lily's mother showed improvements, and the signs of hope began to infiltrate their lives. She responded positively to treatment options they had researched, a relief washing over them like a cleansing rain. With newfound confidence fueling his enthusiasm, Tom embarked on a project that reflected not just his skills but demonstrated the comprehensive work he had done on himself. He drafted a proposal for a community project incorporating sustainable architectural designs, his chance to reclaim his professional dreams and create something meaningful. The fear of failure had morphed into a cloak of inspiration, and he stepped forward as if standing on a mountain's peak, gazing out at future possibilities. One brisk Saturday, Tom awaited feedback from local stakeholders, a sense of exhilaration warming his core. The moment felt monumental. He was no longer the architect of his disappointments, but the builder of his vibrant future. He received a call that day, a pivotal moment he had envisioned where recognition was not out of reach but standing upon him. An architect council united around his proposal. They applauded his initiative and extended an invitation for collaboration. As he received the news, tears of joy blurred his vision. In that moment he realized he had not only contributed purposefully, but had transformed into someone who had conquered his fears. Lily burst through the door moments later, her eyes sparkling with a joy mirrored in the glow of the sun cascading through the window. "What happened? You look elated." In that instant, Tom grasped that personal triumph was not merely forged in his victories, but in sharing them with someone who had seen him grow, who was part of his journey. They accepted the project proposal. They want to collaborate. "Tom, that's incredible," she cheered, wrapping him in a jubilant embrace. In that hug, he felt layers of loneliness dissolve. It wasn't merely an accomplishment. It was proof of their collective fortitude, a shared journey towards fulfillment rooted in their individual achievements. As Tom gazed into her eyes, he found more than gratitude. He found an ally who had fought through life's tempest with him. Together, fueled by purpose, nothing felt impossible any longer. They'd risen through their challenges, confronting not only the storm but thriving amidst the chaos that once threatened to unravel them. And so, with solid confidence and an established sense of self, Tom stood firmly on new ground. He had not only transformed his narrative, but had helped create a new one alongside the person who had inspired him. This was the essence of true change, woven with threads of hope, success, and deep fulfillment. Now it's your turn to embrace inspiring stories of personal transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will change your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, showcasing how vital these narratives are for those who really need it. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share what you took from Tom and Lily's story. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the journey of overcoming. True fans of personal overcoming stories know the importance of these actions. Let's spread that inspiration.